one of the longest-serving secretaries of defense in American history, but it is also clear that you've been one of the best. When the fight against al-Qaeda and our efforts in Afghanistan needed new focus, Bob Gates helped us devise the strategy that has finally put al-Qaeda on a path to defeat and ensures that Afghanistan never again becomes a source for attacks against our nation.
Well, that was President Obama in June of 2011 talking about his former defense secretary, Bob Gates. Gates has a new book out, Duty, in which there's some harsh criticism of the president's leadership and his commitment to the Afghanistan war he was just talking about, saying that in 2010, the president had essentially concluded, quote, he doesn't believe in his own strategy and doesn't consider the war to be his. For him, it's all about getting out. And then there's a moment in where he questions, according to Gates, the president questions the military folks and saying that they may be trying to game the president and trying to leak things on him to slow down the release, the pullback of troops from Afghanistan and from Iraq. Quote, I was pretty upset myself. I thought implicitly accusing David Petraeus, the commander, of gaming him in front of 30 people in the Situation Room was inappropriate, not to mention highly disrespectful of Petraeus. As I sat there, I thought the president doesn't trust his commander, can't stand Afghan President Hamid Karzai, doesn't believe in his own strategy, and doesn't consider the war to be his. For him, it's all about getting out.
Well, that last statement was made about a meeting that occurred on the 3rd of March, 2010. That's 3 months after Obama announced the surge in Afghanistan. So think about this. You're the Secretary of Defense. Here's a president. He's sending 30,000 more troops into battle. And 3 months later, Secretary of Defense realizes that Obama doesn't believe in the surge or believe in the war or believe in his own actions. He doesn't believe in Petraeus. He hates Karzai. He thinks the war isn't his. How can a commander-in-chief in good conscience do that? I remember saying here on the night of the president's speech in which he announced the surge and then immediately announced the withdrawal, and then for the 4 years ever since, he never spoke to explain to the American people why the war, why the surge was important. He now has the lowest public approval of any war in modern history because it had no leadership. But I think this is a shocking revelation. I assumed that he didn't believe in this war from his own actions. But here it's from somebody sitting with the president 3 months in. And I do think this is an indictment of the president that rises above everything else he's done in his presidency.
I do want to read the response from the NSC, or at least part of it. The president welcomes differences of views among his national security team, which broaden his options and enhance our policies. The president wishes Secretary Gates well as he recovers from his recent injury and discusses his book. He also goes on to defend Vice President Biden. Gates in the book says Biden has been on the wrong side of pretty much every national security issue.
Well, Gates is right about that. But, I mean, the real issue is how can a president commit troops if his heart isn't in it when he knows that Americans are going to die? 3 of the 4 out of every 4 Americans who's died in Afghanistan has done so under the command and orders of Barack Obama. And look, the problem isn't that a president makes mistakes. Bush made horrible mistakes in Iraq. Reagan made a terrible mistake in Lebanon. Lincoln made years of mistakes until he found his general. But it's, if you order something, if you order a mission and your heart isn't in the mission, it's a question of conscience here. And I think the president's lack of interest in Afghanistan is shown by the fact that even now, we were talking about what's happening on the ground, he has not spoken with Karzai since July, when everything is hanging now on the status of forces agreement. For a president who doesn't pick up the phone and speak with our ally in the region is really shocking.
The long-term unemployed are not lazy. They're not lacking in motivation. They're coping with the aftermath of the worst economic crisis in generations. Congress should pass this bipartisan plan right away, and I will sign it right away.
So now we're going to have a political issue. You don't care if you won't extend this. But if you look at the states that cut it back, they've actually lowered their unemployment rate and increased their job formation. So there's a debate economically about whether this is an incentive that is a disincentive to work or versus an incentive to help people. I want to help everybody out there that needs some help, but I also want to incentivize them to help themselves, and we're not doing that with this program.
This is something that they're deciding to do at a time that people could lose their houses, because they can't get a job, because there are, 3 people for every job that exists. The problem is there aren't jobs. It's not that the people are sitting at home doing nothing.
And that's an indictment of the administration, indicting itself. We're in the 5th year of the presidency, we're in the 4th year of the economic recovery. It's the weakest since the Second World War. Nina talked about you have to create jobs. This administration doesn't have a clue how to create jobs. It thought it did. It created the biggest stimulus in world history and said there'd be a lot of shovel-ready jobs until Obama discovered that there are no shovel-ready jobs. It had almost no effect on unemployment, which remains sort of a terribly low in unemployment, chronically high. Obama doesn't understand that over-regulation, over-taxation inhibits the jobs, and that's what the problem is.
This has been a Sunfish production.